So I ended up randomly coming across this video by Enigma Phantom, and all I can say about the video is that it was bad enough to put me on life support. That life support? Oh, just Makoto Najima from Persona 5, only the second person in the world to make me admit I'm actually submissive bottom and all that jazz. Look, we're hitting Enigma Phantom, and I honestly have no idea how to start this video before I play the intro. Go ahead and play it before this gets any more embarrassing.
Wake up there. Raise your voice against liars. Feed your anger like fire. Why does nobody want you? Just imagine you're out there, swatting lights in a maker. Can't move fast with a breaker. If you hold on, I want you.
Embarrassing opening statements plus intro card that hopefully made up for it out of the way, let me introduce you all to Enigma Phantom, a commentator who's pretty decent, just he fucked up a little on Misanthropony. So basically, to give you an idea of what's happening, in July of 2017, Nostalgia Critic released his 10th anniversary special movie review on this movie called Norm of the North. That same month, some person named Misanthropony did a video talking about why that episode wasn't good at all. Cut to May of this year, where Enigma Phantom commentated on that video, which led to this video. So that's all you need to know. So with all of that being out of the way, let's begin.
Alright, Willard, do you have a location on the thief? I placed trackers inside several of the memes that were stolen, so hopefully it'll work.
So I'm gonna ignore the rest of this intro skit as I'd probably be nitpicking all over the place. However, there is one thing I do want to bring up right away, since it's actually something that persists through and throughout this video as a whole, and that just happens to be the quality of your mic. Look, Enigma, I can tell from the way it picks up background noises that you're using a phone. Now, I'm not here to say that using a phone is an issue. In fact, I myself use a phone to record all my commentaries. And while it's never been a perfect setup, I can at least look back on my videos and actually kind of forget I recorded my videos on a Google Pixel in a closet. So this is hard to explain, but everything just sounds so compact, almost like an anti-echo or something. It's akin to being in a closet, and while I don't know where you recorded it, it almost sounds like you did. Now, I'm not going to say this is 100% what you do, but I'll just say there's a fair chance of someone who doesn't know, and just tell you what you should probably do. Leave the closet door slightly open and record like that. That way a lot of the sound is being released from the closet and not all compact and shiz. Now, that's only a quarter of my overall issue because I can live with that compact sound. My real issue is the motherfucking background noises. Like, you rubbing yourself on something, it just doesn't sound right in the background. It comes off as really amateurish. Especially when you start recording, there's always like this tapping sound. I can always hear it, it's really annoying. I don't know what causes it, but if you're really using a phone, don't touch your phone too much or all that when you're recording audio, and also try not to move around too much whenever you record. It creates a bunch of unnecessary background noise, which ends up being on display in a lot of this commentary. Anyways, that's the tea. Let's skip. You know, I could talk about how this intro card violated my eyes in various ways in less than a minute, but considering you all suffered with me, I don't think I have to spend too much time talking about how this intro card is actual filth. Like, wow, usually if an intro card's bad, usually I'll just ignore it, but gee, I've got to explain this shit. Basically, the things happening in this intro barely sync at all with the music, and the things that do sync honestly feel less like an attempt to make things sync and more like the video just so happened to sync on its own. Also, this isn't really distracting to me, but I heard some people yelling about this in the back, so the footage is shown as 4:3, but everything else in the intro plus the video itself is 16:19, and that's really inconsistent. I get your editing on KindStar, and as someone who's never used it, I can assume there's likely a chance that KindStar doesn't have the ability to stretch or crop the screen, but it's still something I wanted to point out. Speaking of KindStar, why exactly are there two KindStar watermarks? This is really bothering me. It actually only happens here, so I can assume you did the intro separately from the rest of the video, but either way, I just don't like that. Also, I'm really tempted to nitpick the white text, but the world isn't ready for white text gate, so I'll let you off the warning this time.
Just wait until I...
And lastly, if you don't watch Doug Walker's content, why continue to watch it? You said that you had other projects, and you've made several videos before this talking about how Nostalgia Critic sucks, so why not focus on those instead of making a video hating someone you've already spent multiple times saying you hate? And before you say that wasn't his intent, well...
Maybe because he has something new to say this time. I mean, yeah, it doesn't say it directly, but you'd probably get the gist walking into the video, especially considering he spends a lot of time focusing on the fact this is a 10th anniversary special, as we'll soon see. Though I'm saying this ignoring the fact that this was actually the first Nostalgia Critic video he made. Yeah, somehow, Enigma didn't realize that this was actually the first time Mythanthropony spent time on his channel to talk about Doug's content, and thus his advice couldn't actually apply. I mean, unless he's talking about his recent video, which I could see, but there's a lack of clarity on this. Either way, what you're trying to say is really not right. Honestly, if this was the first video, then I can imagine that each video he's made after has gone out of its way to point out more areas where the critic overall just wasn't good in his eyes. And I mean, fuck, considering how far apart the release dates for his critic videos are, again, one in 2017, two in 2018, that were 3 months apart, and one more in 2019, I'm confident that maybe the dude is focusing more on his other projects, but I guess he just so happened to not look at his channel page or something. This is also why you questioning why he makes so many videos on critic, if he doesn't like him, doesn't work. I mean, it's already clear and will become clear later on that Anthro is out to point out the issues with his content. He isn't just here to say he doesn't like him. I imagine each video Anthro has covered has given Anthro more ammo to try and point out where critic fails as a critic. Basically, I'm saying this interjection is dumb.
But nope, we don't get any of this. Instead, we just get a lazily put together quote-unquote analysis on Norm of the North that even the mysterious Mr. Enter did a better job at.
Also, what's even the point of name-dropping Mr. Enter? Arguably the most infamous reviewer dead horse topic of all time. This adds nothing to the video and only serves to paint the person you hate in an even worse light.
It adds nothing? Enigma, you okay? Cause there's no reason for such a healthy human to have missed the point so easily unless you're under the influence of some sort of mostly illegal substance. But seriously, the point was literally right in front of you. I'm honestly really baffled at the fact that you had no idea what this was basically doing. See, the reason Mythanthropony brought up Mr. Enter's review of Norm of the North was because he was saying that even Mr. Enter had done a better job on his review than critic, or so he saw it that way. As you said, Mr. Enter is apparently an infamous reviewer, so the fact that it makes critic look in a worse light is kind of the point. Seriously, how did you not understand this? Drugs? If so, please hook me up with some of that shiz. Oh, no, I'm not an addict like Kainu. I'm just starting 11th grade in a month, and I really want to get my mind off of it.
Just wait until I... Huh?
And the second sketch that he does is that of the Talent Replacer 9000. It may be related to the film review, but considering how badly paced and how irrelevant it feels, I'm just gonna label it as another one of his failed sketches. They don't even say anything funny, they just say exactly what you think they're going to say, which again ruins the punchline that they're going for. And they seem to think that quoting South Park gives the joke more credibility when it really doesn't.
At the risk of sounding harsh, I don't care about your feelings. If it ties into the review as part of a joke/point, then it's relevant. As a side note, Doug uses a lot of his sketches and jokes to not only entertain but to help illustrate his point. The TR9000 is no exception. Once again, you treat your opinion on comedy as though it's objective fact.
To add on to that, you say that the jokes are predictable. To that, I say, how are the jokes predictable? You know that a joke is going to be predictable? If that's the case, then that doesn't really make it bad by default. For example, I've seen all 16 episodes of Code Ment more times than I can count, so I've practically memorized how the routines are going to go. So by that logic, the jokes aren't funny anymore, right? No, I still laugh my lips off every time I see them.
But Enigma, what he's talking about is different from when you've seen a joke before. Predictable humor generally means a joke just overall is simplistic and the punchline can be seen from miles away, which gives off a sense of a lack of effort, and a lot of times that tends to make the punchline lack said punch, and just feel a little flat. Again, there's a difference.
Especially horrible is how some of these jokes he's going for make absolutely no sense, and he ends up shooting himself in the foot. Take this for example.
Yeah, he wasn't asked, they weren't talking about it, he just kind of randomly starts doing it. It just comes right the hell out of nowhere, and suddenly, we're in a musical. It's like even in the middle of this review, I suddenly started dancing. To the Bill dance!
And several minutes after that,
It's like Groundhog Day, except instead of watching Bill Murray, we're watching Rob Schneider! Instead of watching Bill Murray, we're watching Rob Schneider! It's like even in the middle of this review, I suddenly started dancing.
if this is Doug's way of adding irony into his jokes, he's not good at it. It only further proves how poorly paced the video is.
You are aware that those two clips aren't really related, right? One was part of the Bill gag, and the other was a classic YouTuber cutaways I get the anger out of my system screen. Way to take the scene out of context for the sake of forcing a comparison where there was none to be made.
His point was that he thinks Critic shot himself in the foot by joking that it'd be weird if all of a sudden he started dancing in a video. Just because those clips weren't related and there were reasons that all of a sudden he starts dancing in the middle of the video doesn't exactly affect Anthro's point, because either way to Anthro it just seems to be dumb and contradictory considering what was stated before. Also, I wouldn't exactly call this cut context, because context or not, again, that doesn't change the point Anthro was trying to make. To be fair, I disagree with Anthro and I see what you were trying to go with this, Enigma, but the way you did this interjection was poor and didn't really convince me. Also, this could just be me, but I couldn't understand you when you were doing your super fighting robot voice. I think you should maybe not do that, or maybe fix it.
And this episode is not just poorly paced, it's really, really badly paced. Something that I noticed the second time watching this is how very little Doug actually analyzes the plot of the movie itself. And that mostly stems from how he's just stuck in the first 25 minutes of the movie. I mean, nearly halfway through this video, he's still in the first act of the film. And considering that the last 4 minutes is dedicated to recap and a charity shoutout, it's basically telling me that he spends the majority of the review making jokes about one portion of the film, which gives him very little time left. As a matter of fact, he doesn't even analyze the first act that he spends all of his time on. He honestly had to make a pointless bill sketch and fill the first 14 minutes telling ineffective jokes. How can he even call this a review if he doesn't even review the movie? He doesn't analyze the flaws in the story or what makes the characters so horrible on any informative level. Other reviews of this movie that I've seen from other YouTubers, Black Critic Guy, Selfspecs, Chris Stuckman, Electric Dragon 505, Cinematic Experiment Snakehead, all of them managed to properly analyze the plot, the characters, and the story when Doug himself couldn't, and they did it with less time. How do you even fuck that up? I know that your main focus is to tell jokes, but you're still a reviewer, and as such, you can't just throw your analysis on the film out like that completely.
First, there's a time bit. Call this a nitpick, but the first 2 minutes and 45 seconds is dedicated to an opening and skit, so the analysis of the first act took a bit less than half. Secondly, he does analyze the plot. A lot. That's kind of the point of there being a review. The reason he spent so much time was because he had a lot more to say about the beginning parts of the film as opposed to the rest of it. He analyzes the plot holes, and other points in the movie throughout the time, a lot more than he makes jokes. Sure, a fair amount of jokes are present, but that's not all he does. Third, you bring up other reviewers as the nostalgia critic's supposed betters when you admit yourself to not liking nostalgia critic, thus making this even more you sticking your bite where it doesn't belong. And lastly, yes, critic does make a lot of jokes in his review, but the jokes are not the focus. The focus is reviewing the film while being entertaining about it.
So this point is very all over the place when it comes to problems, so let me just go down the list if you excuse me. First off, you act like Anthro said Critic doesn't analyze the film at all. In actuality, he said he doesn't do it in any real informative degree, which implies Critic only went out and gave us nothing really informative. And honestly, you don't really disprove this because all you said was, he actually does analyze the film, it wouldn't be a review without it. And while you do say he does this a lot and lists everything he does, how am I supposed to know he actually did any of this to an actual informative degree? Some timestamps from Critic's video would have helped, as it would have given us some areas to go off of, but because they don't exist, some viewers were out there were automatically inclined to assume this proof doesn't exist. I would go and take a look at Critic's video, but my CC contract doesn't require any actual effort, so I'm just gonna pull an Evangelion and leave the right or wrong of this up to the viewer interpretation. Also, let me get this straight, because Anthro has a bias against Critic's content, it means pointing out how there were loads of other reviewers who actually analyzed the film, whereas Critic failed at that aspect in his eyes, automatically means he is simply sticking his bias, or excuse me, buy it, where it doesn't belong. I think we're missing a few steps, but okay, let me go back. I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, aside from pointing out how a lot of these reviews were done in less time than Critics, this doesn't actually add much and could be seen as him shoehorning in these reviewers for the sake of it. But you don't clarify this. From the gate, it's treated as bias. Also, you bringing up Critics who the nostalgia critic supposedly betters is probably not the wording you meant to use here, since we're talking about critics who better the nostalgia critic. Next time, pay attention to Ms. Doodle's class for wording. So anyways, that's all I'm gonna say for the video. Though there is one last section prior to final thought that I want to talk about, because seriously, Enigma argues one part that Anthro makes about some animals pissing in fish tanks, yada yada, but for some reason he leaves in the part where Anthro bitches about the 10th anniversary special feeling lazy and nothing at all like a special, though Enigma never commentates on that part for whatever reason. So I'm kind of curious, were you going to commentate on that, but you left in the part that you were going to cover or something? I don't know. Just, whatever, that's all I want to say about the video. So, I'll see you all guys later. Auf Wiedersehen. What's this about? Wait. Final thoughts? Oh, right. Somehow I almost fucking got. Well, I'm gonna be honest, this video had its fair share of good points, but overall, the final result was really bleh. A little of the points I covered, and some I didn't, in fact, felt like it really failed to completely grasp Anthro, and sometimes you also jump to conclusions, which fucked you over a few times, by the way. Really, all I have is basic advice, like, I don't know, pay attention a little more, but, I mean, yes, I guess that'll do it. I feel like you know where to go from here. You're a pretty good commentator, Enigma. Just every now and then you have this little moment where you fuck up, but hey, that's all of us. We're gonna have that. And I feel like from here on out, you're gonna improve. But whatever, you guys gotta put down your fucking guns or what? Alright. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you all have a nice night. See you all later. Auf Wiedersehen.